crested geckos. They have to be one of the most popular gecko for pets. And for good reason too. These guys are absolutely amazing. Going from any experience level, from the beginner first time keeper to someone who's been in the hobby for years and years, these guys just make awesome dudes. However, just like many things, when things become popular, some misconceptions and even myths seem to arise. These misconceptions stem from out-of-date info or just being completely wrong. It's all the same. There are a lot of myths that come from the crested gecko. And while it's a good thing that's exactly what we're gonna be talking about today, I wanted to take the most common crested gecko myth that you guys hear and kind of debunking them and telling you really what it's like actually owning a crested gecko. So stick around, we are gonna be debunking some absolutely ridiculous myths, and subscribe if you're new. I'd love to have you around. Let's get into it. Kicking off this list, we are gonna be starting with one that might actually be a little bit controversial, but I'll try to navigate the waters as best I can and explain why it's actually not bad. And that of course is going to be myth number 1, tubs are bad for crested geckos. If you're brave enough to post a picture of your new crested gecko inside of a tub on any of these Facebook groups, get ready for 2 big things. Number 1, to be scolded harshly and told that you are a bad person for putting them in a tub. And number 2, being riddled with just wrong information about it and how you're doing it wrong and they're doing it right. However, the truth of the matter is tubs are absolutely fine as long as they are modified a certain way that is best for the reptile, and I'll get a little bit into that right now. You want to put your crested gecko inside a tub and just call it a day. They are going to need some sort of ventilation. Now this can be done in a magnitude of different ways. We're using vent holes like the little sink thingies I got on mine right now, screen covers, cutting up the top and then putting a little bit of screen over it, or just drilling a bajillion holes. I did that too. It takes a lot of work and it looks really dumb, but it is a way that you can do it to create ventilation. The truth of the matter is, when it comes to where I want my crested geckos to be, I would much rather prefer putting them in a tub versus something like a glass enclosure. And the big reason about it actually has everything to do with ventilation. Now we're talking about an aquarium. It's gonna have one thing that every one of them has, and that is an open screen ventilation, which is really hard to contain humidity when your ceiling is air. It just, that's what happens. The humidity, when you're using tubs, they're gonna hold humidity so much better. Actually, it's perfect for crested geckos. I absolutely love it to this point where when I have my tubs, I only have to spray them about once every other day because the humidity holds in them that well. Today, I will say glass enclosures do have the upper hand in tubs for one specific way, and that's gonna be tubs are ugly. They look cheap because they are cheap, and it kind of just is what it is. Eventually, I'm gonna be upgrading myself personally to PVC because that also holds humidity a lot better than this glass, but glass does look better. That's about the only thing it is. However, you are in no way, shape, or form a bad person because you want to keep yours in a tub versus something like an aquarium. Before we continue on with the video, I just want to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, Zen Habitats. Now, Zen Habitats makes some absolutely amazing enclosures, like the one directly behind me, or the one directly beside me. Enclosures come in such a variety of sizes, starting as big as a 4x2x4 for a frilled dragon, all the way down to a 2x2x2 for, say, a crested gecko. The best part about Zen Habitats is the no wait shipping. Now for some of these PVC enclosures, I have waited as long as 7 months to get them. Not Zen Habitats. You will receive your order within 7 days on any in-stock Zen Habitats that you purchase on the website. What else can I say, man? Great product, fast shipping with no hidden shipping fees like other companies, and it's absolutely amazing product. If you guys want to learn some more information about Zen Habitats, peep the little link I have down there in the description to find out more. Boy gets a small cutback if you use that link. I very much appreciate it. Let's get back to the video. Moving on, let's get into the second myth. Now, this one I always find a little bit funny. There is some truth to it, but it's kind of over dramatized. People are being over dramatic about it. And that of course is going to be myth number 2. If you touch a crested gecko's tail, it will immediately drop it. Now, I will say when it comes to these New Caledonian geckos, crested geckos seem to be the most eager to drop their tail, which I always found kind of funny because they're like the only species of New Cal that don't grow it back. Like gargs, chewies, leechies, they all grow their tails back. At least I think they do, but crested geckos don't. That's why we have like frog butts like Pebbles here. However, they are more likely to drop their tail than those other New Caledonian species. That does not mean they're automatically gonna drop it at all. Just like you touch the, I mean, people are bringing out where like you touch the tail and breaks. Just like that, good to go, they're gonna drop it. And that's just not really true. At the end of the day, it just kind of comes down to the individual personal crested gecko. I mean, I have crested geckos that I can hang off like this and swish them around and And they won't even drop their tail, not even once. I have other geckos that if you look at them wrong, they'll taunt you. They'll be like, yeah, I'll drop it. I'll drop it right now, just for looking at them funny. It's weird, but at the end of the day, it does come to the individual animal, not the entire species. So while no, don't imitate the thing I was clearly making a joke about. However, don't worry if you're handling your crested gecko and you accidentally touch its tail, it's not gonna immediately drop it, you're okay. On this myth has to be my personal favorite because I find it to be absolutely hilarious. It's well, we'll get into it, and that's gonna be myth number 3. You cannot use a vacuum cleaner if you want your gecko not to drop its tail. It goes along with number 2. There's a lot of like drop-tailed myths, but these are the 2 ones that I found the most interesting. I think that like the thought process around this one is going to be like when you're vacuuming, it's like a loud noise and it can startle the animal and have it drop its tail, which I guess is a possibility. Like it could do that. I mean, it could, but what is the likelihood that that's gonna really happen? Again, what we were talking about in the last topic, it really just depends on the individual animal. For instance, I'll give you guys a little scenario. I was doing a photo shoot actually right here for my tegus, get those nice little Instagram shots of all my tegu breeders. And Red, Rosemary, one of my girls, she got a little spook, and so she kind of ran and hid underneath the rack system and then like bumped it, which actually tipped the rack system or the shelf unit over and knocked over a couple of tubs that had crested geckos in it. That is a big start. We're talking about their home being like tumbled about, right? None of them dropped their tails, not even one. So I would say the likelihood of like their home being flipped over and them falling like 2 feet and not dropping their tail, I have to say I'm pretty sure the vacuum cleaner is gonna be like okay for it. However, I also have crested geckos like Spice, my male, where I had him on stream and was showing him off while cleaning his tub and he dropped his tail on me by me just holding him open palm like this. So it really just goes to reinforce that it is up to the individual animal. And if you just kind of have a more sporadic dude, I guess maybe like avoid the vacuum cleaner in that room. However, most of the time, I would say the majority of it, you're not gonna have this issue. Alrighty, moving on, we still got a couple more to talk about, and that is gonna bring us to myth number 4, crested geckos will not drink standing water. Now, this one's just a straight up lie. It's not true. I don't know where this like stemmed from, that like you have to always miss the walls and that's the only way they're gonna drink out of it, or have some sort of like moving water fountain type thing. They'll drink water out of a dish just fine. If you guys actually watch this video right here, you saw that I really changed up my breeding plans when it came to my new cows. So I'm doing crested geckos in groups now, and I actually have a bowl of water, a pretty large bowl, like a deli cup, that you ship animals with in each individual tub, and I found it works great. Number 1, you kind of have to replace it a little bit because they will immediately poop in the dish, which is cool for like cleaning up. There's not much poop on like the bins and the paper towels, but there is poop in the water. You want to make sure you get that out pretty frequently. But at the same time, I've actually personally witnessed crested geckos going down and drinking out of that water. So yes, they recognize standing water, and yes, they will drink out of that water dish. It doesn't just have to be the sides. This has actually personally saved me a lot of time because I have what, 20, 30, 40, 50 bins that I have to mist every time. It's really nice consolidating those breeders and having a dish where I know they can lick it, and obviously having high humidity in this building by itself, it really cuts down on the amount of misting I need to do because I know that humidity is good in there and they have a ready water dish to get the water that they so need. But while no, having a water dish is not a mandatory thing. I mean, you just as easily can mist the walls. I misted the crested geckos and didn't provide a water dish for years and years. I've never had any problems with it. However, they well utilize it. It is something you can offer them. And if there's some times where you're going on a way vacation, maybe you're gonna be out of town for a couple of days, having a water dish in there is gonna be vital for them. So instead of them not getting that hydration from you not misting, they at least have a water source they can drink out of until they poop in it. Which they absolutely will do that. Hey, sorry, me again. Did you guys know that we have Tokay Gecko merch? Just take a look at this bad boy right here. It's actually a 2-for-1 special because you get Tokay on the front, Tokay in the back. Wow. Fantastic. If you want an actual Tokay gecko, not a skeleton of one, we actually have a multitude of different gecko ones. We got ones for cresteds, Tokays, chameleons. That's not a gecko. But still, it is on our Teespring. You can find the banner right down there if you're interested in buying a shirt. Thank you. Goodbye. But alrighty, getting down to the last topic on this one. This one is actually going to be a little controversial. I imagine I'm going to get some pushback from it, and there is a caveat to it. So I want to make sure you guys listen to this entire section before just taking the first part and running with it. That's a really important thing that I want to make clear. And that is going to be myth number 5. And that myth is going to be crested geckos will cook themselves if you keep them over 80 degrees. If you look at any care guide, including ones that I made in the past or anything on Google, you will hear that crested geckos can absolutely never be over 80 degrees or else they will fry and die immediately. Nothing to go, you have to keep them below that 80-degree point. Coming from personal experience that I've witnessed over 2 years now, 2 breeding seasons, that's not the case. I've actually had average temperatures in the summertime when I actually can't cool my house down, temperatures averaging around 85 to 86 degrees. I'll say this is a rare occurrence and not a steady occurrence where they're being put in this 88 degree all day and night for multiple days. However, we do have those spikes over here at Dakota Blue Exotics where it gets that hot and I can't physically cool the room that they're in down enough. And what did I find from that? Nothing happened. They bred for me great. The babies did great. The babies actually got a little bigger because they had a faster metabolism because they were warmer and were eating more food. Nothing bad happened. Myth busted? Here is the important disclaimer that I have to say before you click off this video, and that is going to be, yes, they can be put in these spikes of high temperatures as long, say it with me, as long as your humidity is also high. I'm gonna go into like the basic rules of reptiles, and that is you can't keep your reptile hot and dry, and you can't keep them wet and cold. Those are the 2 scenarios where you're gonna have problems. However, if you're keeping a nice steady humidity up, if you're keeping a nice steady humidity curve in your enclosures, keeping that humidity up, making sure a water bowl's in there, anything like that, and they have that proper hydration, they are going to be fine those higher temps, as long as, again, they're not temporary, that they are temporary and not going on weeks and weeks and weeks. So I guess this myth is kind of half true. Yes, if you keep your crested gecko's enclosure dry as a bone and put it in that 80 to 85 degrees, you will dehydrate the animal enough to where it will perish. However, if you have high humidity in that enclosure, as well as proper ventilation and an area where they can source out and seek out water, then you will not have a problem. And again, no, I am not saying keep your crested geckos at 88 degrees 24/7. That is absolutely not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is there is a bit of myth to this. There's some truth, but there's also myth. Yes, you can't do it constantly, but also no, your crested gecko will not it is not a death sentence to get temperatures above 80 degrees. But I hope I did that right to the fact that no one's gonna come at me, but I know there's gonna be one comment down there. I can just see it now. A great podcast that goes a lot more in depth about the advanced husbandry of crested geckos that Tiki's Geckos has. I can't remember, I think it's episode 2. I kind of binged all of them, like 1 through 4 while I was on a road trip, so I can't remember exactly which one it was. So listen to all of them, and eventually you'll find the one with crested geckos where they talk about keeping crested geckos at a higher heat. There we got it. 5 myths on crested geckos that are myths that I just busted. Kind of. If you guys want to hear about some more myths, because those were just the top ones, I have a lot more I can do, make sure to drop me a comment down there and let me know if you want to see another video of this or if you want me to make it into a series. And as always, boys and girls, thank you so much for taking the time of your day to follow us over here at Dakota Blue Exotics. I will see you guys next time, but until then, goodbye.